Hey, what's up, YouTube community? This is Angus Diaries again. This is March the 10th, 2015. Well, after a considerable amount of stress, thinking about angels and demons is going to be the title of this video. So if you don't believe in angels and demons, go ahead and just shut it off now, because I want to go over some of my own views on what I believe is going on with this. One small look at the world that we live in today. If you live in America, and if you notice, America's influence with Hollywood and media has also affected Europe. It's also affected every major, what's considered to be traditionally considered to be white European nations. Whether Sweden or France or Germany or Norway or Austria or even the United States itself. It's our own sickness has plagued literally the rest of the white world, literally. Many people would say that our success was due to our embracing of diversity. Many people would say that our success is due to our immigration policies, where immigration is a great benefit to our economy, and this is the reason. And so these concepts and these ideas have been perpetuated to other nations, specifically the white European nations. And as you know, if you want to be successful like America is, well, you must embrace the things that America does, and therefore you will become successful. Um, so I think that's largely why a lot of the movies like even Rocky, where he fights Ivan Drago in Rocky. I think it's Rocky 3 or whatever, and it's I live in America. It's got James Brown coming out, and it's a multicultural kind of a feel to it, where Apollo Creed stands up against the big bad Russian, and because that was during still the Cold War. Russia hadn't fell yet, and hadn't imploded yet, but you know, uh, these concepts were perpetuated to other nations, and this was largely due to the success of Hollywood promoting these diverse factors. The next thing, of course, that they did was they had open immigration policies and different things in those European countries to, you know, with the hopes that that would help. But everyone sees that it is not helping. It's making things worse. The next thing that the media did was that they instituted concepts that immorality somehow was freedom. Uh, the freedom to be immoral is true freedom. Not justice, not law, not order, not love, not mercy, not compassion, but rather immorality. And then you look at that and you think to yourself, is it true? But one small glimpse at what's on the television every night of the week, or perhaps the next movie that's coming out on a Friday, we see that it's all blood and gore, sex and violence, and coarse joking, and just folly, silly humor, things that don't necessarily embrace any kind of ideals of a working, functioning society. It's good to be rude, it's good to be crude, it's good to be immoral, it's good to be free to be immoral. Freedom equals immorality. The law is against justice now. Immorality is the law of the land. And so anarchy becomes the law. Now, this seems to be very self-evident, for any thinking person that maybe would watch everything unfolding outside the door of their house or apartment or dwelling space, that you can see the behavior of the people. I recall the Jerry Springer show that came out in the 1990s, and the popularity of the Jerry Springer show. I'm going to get to the angels and demons in a minute. But after constantly I believe Jerry Springer was Jewish. I could be mistaken. I'm pretty sure he was. But despite the blonde hair, he would come out at the end of the show and give a very good speech about what's actually important in life, and it would be eloquent and would make so much sense, and you would go, well, yeah, that's true. But see, it became everything in the Jerry Springer show, despite its popularity, was about white trash, or how lesbians are good, and then that's just smacking each other and craziness and then, but see, that wasn't really reality at that time. That was a very, very small segment of society. But I believe that the powers that be wanted it to become a case of art, or life imitates art. They wanted what they were projecting to actually become reality and the norm, the standard of the day. And so this is why that show was created. And the good guy in the show was the one that made sense, and he happened to be Jewish. He gave great speeches at the end saying what was actually important in life. So Jerry Springer seemed to know what was important. But in most cases, they were actors. They weren't really real people, is my point. There may have been one or two shows where they actually used real people. Once they began to have the effect that they wanted, they began to incorporate some real people that actually were being affected probably by the Jerry Springer show, and this became their reality. And so this is how the destructive nature of Hollywood works, or has worked, in fact. There had been protest with Two Live Crew, the popular rap band that was very lewd and vulgar, where John Denver and different people said they have the right, a huge court case over their albums because they were so vulgar that they had to put like a little label on the CD that would say you have to be a certain age to buy this, or explicit content, or something like that. And then you would have these big name musicians and different people would come out and say they have the right to say this immorality. They have the right because, after all, it's freedom of speech. Now here's what I want you to pay attention. And they won the case, and they did a show. Two Live Crew did a song called something about America. I can't remember the name of it. But my point is this. Okay, now we've progressed beyond that, and now immorality is the law of the land, and now we are not allowed to tell the truth because of laws like hate speech laws or anti-Semitic laws, or these different types of laws that are actually functioning and working against reality and the truth. And so immorality is actually the law. Now here's where I want to get to with the angels and demons. I don't believe that you could have this kind of thing take place without entities and what Christians would refer to as demons, or Muslims would refer to as jinns in the Quran, or the medieval Europeans may have referred to as archons or incubuses and different things like this here. I think you have a reality that's going on beyond this reality, and I believe that there is a devil at work. The devil is real. Okay, I don't believe in evolution. I believe it just like it said. Now, whether they're space aliens or just another dimension that is interacting with this dimension remains to be seen. But the effects of these kinds of things the effects of what I'm saying is very evident around us all. It simply makes no sense. And so what I come up with from studying and diligently reading my Bible is that there are people here that are genetically capable of understanding God, righteousness, goodness, mercy, compassion, and things like that, honor, and things like that. And there are literally people here genetically that seek the exact opposite. They're not reptilians or anything like that, but perhaps the things in the other dimension may be a little bit more akin to a reptilian. Some of the anomalies I've looked at on people's faces, David Icke talks about a lot of this stuff. I think it's actually a demon kind of manifested so much in that person, that was genetically predisposed or compromised enough to where that person would surrender their will so completely to it that you will see almost physical manifestations of the demonic entity within that person. And I believe, I can't name them with a video that I'm talking on the subject about, but I've just discussed them, and I believe that they are literally of their father, the devil. I believe at some point these things came into this dimension and they created these people, and I believe that they will be more susceptible to follow out what these things would like to act out in reality here. They can't act it out. They can influence the minds of different people in some way, some which way, but they can't necessarily act out what they would like to do without a physical body in order to do it. Does that make sense? And so I think that this was the necessity of creating this kind of people that had more of a predisposition to follow more along the lines of what the devil had in mind. I think that there is a devil. It sounds crazy, but the world is right outside your door to go and see. This doesn't make any sense for logical, rational people to embrace things that are just so outrageous and so backwards that they would embrace things like transsexualism, or even getting to the point of thinking it's okay to be a pedophile or molest girls. I had friends that did those things that were white. They weren't Jewish, and some of them are in jail now. It shocked me to find that out. Some of you may know some people like that yourself. But this would have been something that had never happened if that person hadn't been influenced by some of this stuff. And some people are more easily influenced by it than others. Some of the people here in certain races are more predisposed to follow and act out what these powers in higher places would prefer that they do. And so I think that without a proper study of that, as ridiculous as it sounds, I don't think that people will come up with exactly what is going on here. Do you know? I mentioned the video Rap God by Eminem. If you watch the live version of Rap God, it's just type in Rap God live version, you'll notice in the background there's a huge demon in the background, a kind of gargoyle sort of thing. And everybody there doesn't pay any attention to these huge speakers, digital speakers, strobe light speakers, and there's this big demon. And they're all just getting into the song. But it's really Satanism that they're getting into. Do you know? They're worshiping the devil, and they don't understand it. So, we can talk about maybe anti-Semitism, or we can talk about racism, or we could talk about hate speech laws and why that's wrong. But I think at the very core of this is Luciferian Zionism, actually. Jewish Luciferian Zionism. So I think that's what you're looking at. And so I think this was the need to hide this sort of thing, from the public, of what is taking place. And I think that what the future holds is probably going to be grim. I don't believe that the devil can survive without someone to leech off of or parasite off of. And we've all been stretched so thin, spread so thin here, the white nations have, that it's becoming more chaotic, more crazy, more outright in your face, immoral, and I think it's stirring at the furious indignation and righteousness of the whites right now. Actually, the ones who have submitted to this and maybe just are greedy or they're cowards. I don't know. But I don't necessarily hold them unresponsible, depending on the measure of righteousness that's been allotted to them. But I say that, if you have a voice, you should speak out as best or as quietly as you can. You don't got to make an ass out of yourself like I've done. Sometimes I do that. My last video didn't do very well. People don't like it. They say you're a Jew's best friend. You're saying don't have whites. You didn't even get past the part where I was smoking the cigarette. Probably so he's smoking a joint. Cut this video off. It's just he's gonna be saying some stupid shit. But what I said is exactly true. There's no need to have children, until, you would want a child to be brought into a safe world, not a crazy world. So I think people that have children, you better maybe do your best and stick by them. But if you don't have kids, I just don't see there's any. If you're so eat up with having kids, that's kind of selfish. Maybe just consider the world you're living in and think about what kind of world you'd be bringing that child into. If you go, well, I want to have kids, well, okay, well, why don't you deal with the world around you, or speak out against it, that what's going on here is so bad and so immoral, and then if you can make a change, Well, then have some kids. Does that make sense? So thanks for your time. This is Angels and Demons. Probably not going to get any hits either, so whatever. Talk to you guys again. It's Angus.